This podcast is brought to you by the Goosebumps Crew Podcast.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Party of Your Broadway World podcast. Now, today we are finally going to discuss the hit TV show that started in 2010 or probably either 10 or 11, and then went all the way to 2018. We're going to discuss Once Upon a Time. And we're going to discuss it with Laura T. With Laura T. So let us welcome her in, and let's get this started.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I was running late because I had to fix my setup here, and
That is fair.
so we talked about what we were going to discuss before we scheduled. We're
Mhm.
going to talk about Once Upon a Time,
Mm-hmm.
the greatest show ever that left us.
I hesitate to say it left us too soon, but yes.
Yes, it did. It actually did. I feel
Mhm.
like, because and I will preface this by saying it did leave us too soon, because with Disney growing and more
Mhm.
movies and more like stories are being told,
Yeah.
there was more for Once Upon a Time to freaking add.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I get asked on my account, because my main thing is my Once Upon a Time TikTok account, is how do I think Once Upon a Time would have handled this or that or whichever franchise that's come out since the show ended in 2018. And my answer is not usually one people like, because I usually say, for a lot of like the newer ones, I always say I would kind of hope that Once Upon a Time would understand what is a story for them and what isn't.
Right.
Because like, also, are we recording? Just so I
Yeah.
is this
Yeah.
all okay?
Oh
Just
yeah.
making sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Once Upon a Time, at its core, like yes, it is a lot of Disney media, because a lot of these fairy tales have been adapted into other Disney story into the original stories, I should say, have been adapted into Disney movies.
Yeah.
But like a lot, the ones I get asked the most often, I would say, are usually Encanto and Turning Red, neither
Right.
of which have a basis in an older story. They're both new stories based in other cultures' folklore. So
Right.
it's like one of those things where I'm like, Once Upon a Time is classic literature, fairy tales, not specifically Disney.
Right.
Because like I would say, especially with Encanto, it's a great movie that's steeped in a lot of really specific and really beautiful folklore,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not based off of a specific story. It's magical realism with really good music.
Right. 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 Yeah, that actually did make me think too, like red and like turning red and like, well, maybe Encanto would work in that world. Well, I don't know. What would you think Encanto would work in that world?
I hesitate to say that it would. It could be a little sector of the United Realms after, when Regina united everything at the end of season 7, but because it's like not like based on a story, it would feel a little out of place to
Yeah.
me. Like the way they kind of sprinkled Moana with Maui's hook in season 7, that was enough for me, because I almost like I didn't want them to touch and possibly ruin Moana at that point, but they picked the element of that was from a specific mythology story.
Mm.
So that's I always go back and forth as to whether or not I mean, I'm also biased about the ending of the show because Regina was my favorite character and the ending of the show was her happy ending. I'm like,
Mm.
if we get more of this, her happy ending is gonna get messed up.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about, because I think that you talked about this in one of your lives on TikTok, but the fact that they have Dorothy, and Dorothy is not a Disney character.
Mm-hmm.
The Wicked Witch of the West is not a Disney character.
Yeah.
So, like a show based on like the Disney characters having that. What's your opinion on that? Because I don't think I'd never even realized that.
Yeah, well, because it depends, I guess, on your interpretation of the stories that they're pulling from. And I'm a Disney nerd. I'm also a classic fairy tale nerd, and my educational background is in literature. So I know classic literature and classic stories is really my thing. And from my interpretation of the stories, the way that they kind of, they reinvent them, a lot of what they pull in is actually based on the versions that Disney based their movies on. So a lot of these are based, like, it's just so many of the older fairy tales and the older Disney movies are so culturally saturated that many people don't know what was a Disney invention and what wasn't. So like you get a little bit of both. But from the beginning, I would say, especially because the main fairy tale they start out with is Snow White, and there's some inklings of Pinocchio, and then we get right into Alice in Wonderland in the first season because we have the Mad Hatter and we have the Queen of Hearts. And from the very beginning, they started with classic literature that also happened to be Disney movies.
Fun fact for all of you, Millie Bobby Brown, who is 11 in Stranger Things, was Alice in that.
Yes, she was.
And I never knew that. And then I read about it. I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah. She was. So like with that, they kind of pull from stuff that's like classic literature as well as a Disney movie. So I would say the first time like we really see more of that is I'd say in season 3 with Peter Pan, because a lot of the imagery and the elements of that character are taken, I would say, more so from the original book, less from the movie itself. And then we get right into The Wicked Witch of the West, which is from a classic book and very iconic media. So like I would say from the beginning, they set themselves up as reinventing classic fairy tales. Those classic fairy tales just also happen to be Disney movies, and they do pull a lot from both because they're ABC, so they can.
Yeah, true. And and I'm joking when I say this, but like, since ABC is like technically part of Disney and everything, well, not technically, it is part of Disney.
Yeah.
But I always kind of wondered what it would be like if Disney was like, all right, we're gonna bring the Once Upon a Time characters to Disney World and Disneyland.
Well, I mean, they kind of did. I mean, it was very loosely, because I was talking about this. I sent this to my co-host for my podcast, because when New Fantasyland, when that opened, that section of the Magic Kingdom opened in 2013, they did a commercial with Lana as Regina walking around New Fantasyland being like, when I rule this place, things are going to look a little different. And then they kind of show all the different aspects. So like they kind of brought them to Disney World, but not quite.
Well,
Ish. They brought Regina.
Can I tell you like a really funny story though? I
Mhm.
was a couple years ago. I can't remember what year this was, but a couple years ago, I went to Comic-Con. I met Carrie Elwes, who was Leslie in The Princess Bride.
Mhm.
Then the second day of Comic-Con, I met Sean McGuire,
Oh, nice.
who was Robin Hood in Once Upon
Mhm.
a Time, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
what?
He was the first of the cast that I ever met in person. Just
Yeah.
funnily enough, he happened to be, because I go to New York Comic Con every year, and the first year I went, he happened to be there for some reason. I don't know why. I wasn't questioning it. I was like, my friends, we stalked the area of the show floor where he was going to be until he got there.
Why is that so amazing?
I was like, oh, that was 10 years ago. Oh, I hate that. Oh, just did that math. Yeah, I've been a fan of the show since I would say since the start.
Yeah.
Because I started watching during the first season. I was in high school at the time, so I think I started watching it what was midway through season 1, but I ended up binging because back then Hulu was free. If you wanted to watch commercials, so I binged the first 17 episodes in a week.
Yeah, I being the Disney nerd that I am, like, I wanted to watch it, so I watched it, and then wasn't getting into it. I told my mom, I was like, "This is stupid," like, and I stopped watching it. stopped watching it for like 1 or 2 seasons, picked it back up because I was like, okay, I'll give it a second chance. Watched the third, and then I like watched the third season because by the time like I was picking it back up, they were doing like third season or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, all right, okay, yeah, I love this. Never mind. I love this.
Sometimes it just takes like the right like the right group of episodes, and like that's it. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was just because I didn't understand it at first because I was just like, I don't understand what this is.
Yeah. The first season can be a lot to wrap your head around. I feel like if like I binged it, so I can't speak for anyone that watched it live, like watching those 1 week at a time.
Mm.
But actually that's not true. I kind of can because my podcast is split up. We watch them 1 week at a time because I'm watching it alongside my co-host who's watching it for the very first time. And I've asked her on multiple occasions. I was like, if you didn't have me to answer some of these questions or make things a little clearer as best I can without spoilers, like, do you think you'd still be watching it? And she's like, I'd be confused, but I'd probably still be going, at least for the first season. We're just starting to record season 3. We think we recorded 304 yesterday. And she's like, I know you keep telling me what's coming is really, really good, but she's like, right now, I if I was watching it by myself, I would have stopped. I'm like,
Mm.
that's fair. Because not
That's
every
fair.
Peter Pan, the Neverland arc is hard for a lot of viewers. I feel like a lot of people dropped off there
Yeah.
when the show was airing. In my case, I don't know why I kept watching because honestly, I know where I am now. I probably also would have stopped at season 3, but I know what's coming. I know what's good. I'm actually wearing my merch from Rebecca Mader today, just out of that was by accident. But like it's like sometimes it takes the right episodes, and sometimes it can take all it can take is one episode to kind of knock you off. You just gets
Right.
to be too confusing.
Right, exactly. Cause because the Peter Pan episodes were a little still really good, but still a little confusing to me because I was like, why is Hook like in it trying to hit on Emma, and then like why is Emma like not like I don't understand that part, and also why is Hook hot?
I mean, why not make him hot at that point is really my question.
That was my first question. Why is Hook so hot?
If you're gonna have villains, you might as well make them attractive. That's how I've always been. If you're gonna have them, make them really attractive. And Once Upon a Time does deliver.
I mean, Prince Charming's for like Snow White's prince, like that I understand because this I hate myself for this because this is gonna be so stupid, but
Nah.
the cartoon version is pretty hot.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, the thing with that I came up with this idea the other day while we were recording because I was trying to help my co-host feel better. I was like, you just get through this. The next episode's gonna be Hook backstory. You'll enjoy that. Then we're gonna have the mermaids. It'll be fine. I'm dragging her along in this half of the season. But I think because also this is the first season that they do the 11 and 11 episode season break. Like you have your A and B halves.
Yeah.
And I think they were still figuring out how that structure was going to work because there are some points where it just feels like nothing's moving forward given that you only have 11 episodes. Like things can move slowly when you have a good chunk of your season to get through it. But in the case of this one, like we know episode 11, this arc's going to be over. So like, why is nothing moving forward? Why am I getting a lot of world building without any plot? Which like there's like it's a hard balance to strike, especially since they're figuring out how that story structure was going to work for them.
Right. And I was going speaking of like when we were first talking about characters that like are like weird that they're in there. Bo Peep. Just
the warlord Bo Peep will never make any sense. I'm surprised I haven't teased that for Katie yet because she's gonna be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, because there's no way to explain that.
It's like she's evil and everything too, and I was like, and she's like, we like,
and she has a Cockney accent for some reason.
Right, and I'm like, tell me in which world this works in because this doesn't work at all.
no, there's no way to make that one make any sense. There are a few things that like I pride myself on like being able to make a lot of stuff on that show make sense. Bo Peep is not one of them.
No. And then there was a part where like I think it was Kristoff and Anna go to see Bo Peep, and I'm like, how does that like?
Yeah, it's too many things because Anna was there with David, and then there was Bo Peep. It was too many things on top of each other.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the Ingrid and Elsa, like, who is this Ingrid person? I get like, I don't. I'm stuttering because I'm like, what the heck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ingrid, this I liked that they included the Snow Queen because that's an arc that the more that I watch it, the
Yeah,
more and more I like it.
right.
Which is it's an odd thing that I'm learning with especially with this show in general. The more I watch things that I didn't like at first, I start to like them more and more as I get
Yeah,
older and as I analyze them differently.
yeah.
And the Frozen arc at the very beginning, it was another one that lost they thought it was going to win them a lot of viewers and it lost them a lot of viewers. But remove because at the time it was the soonest that they could do that. That came out that was the fall of 2014. Frozen came out fall of 2013. That was the soonest they could do a Frozen arc.
Mm.
And at the time it felt very much like a money grab, a view grab, and it probably was, and it didn't work. But the more I watch it separate from that, and I'm able to like just watch the story for what it does for Emma's character growth, especially in season 4, I love that arc. It's crazy. It's bonkers. It makes no sense some days, but I love watching it. And Ingrid as a villain is like turned out to be really compelling
Mm.
if I remove myself from the idea that they just did this for money.
Which
I'm also very biased because she's played by Elizabeth Mitchell and I love her just in general. She was a great choice for that, but she's also just a great actor.
yeah.
So I'm very biased when I like the actor who plays characters. Like even if there's nothing redeemable about that character, I'm like, but they're pretty.
But they're pretty.
But they're pretty. That's usually all it takes.
Like, but they're pretty. Just look at
Exactly.
that prettiness.
All of the women on this show are very attractive and they wear very low cut dresses. I'm sorry, I'm weak.
This is made for a great episode.
Mm-hmm.
The low cut dresses.
I have a type. What can I say?
Yeah. I mean, my type is what? I can't think of her name. The one that played Ariel. She
Oh,
was
Joanna
in,
Fisher.
yeah, Joanna Fisher. Yeah, that's mine. That's mine.
Oh, sorry, no, not Fisher. Joanna Garcia. That's her last name.
Joanna Garcia. Yes, yes. Um, yeah, she's mine. my guilty pleasure.
That is fair.
Which by the way, she was in Reba,
Yes, she was.
and I completely because it had been years since I saw Reba, so I kind of
Mhm.
forgot all the people in them.
Mhm.
And then I was like, and then I saw like the Little Mermaid episodes, and I'm like, she looks really familiar. I looked it up, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Cheyenne.
Mhm.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, right.
And then I really enjoyed the villain episodes. Really enjoyed like all the villain episodes with like
Mhm.
Cruella and Ursula and
The Queens of Darkness. That was
oh,
like tailor made for me chaos.
seriously.
Like it felt like it because like they were just. I mean, all of them were a little off the walls.
Yeah.
Like a little bit because it was chaos that the three of them like they all had something. It was almost like their own villainous 5-man band.
Yep.
Like they all had something they all needed. And if you again basically if you include Regina, Rumpel, Mal, Ursula, and Cruella, that is a villainous 5-man band in and of itself.
Mhm.
They've got everything they need there. And it was
Right.
they were absolute chaos. Can you tell that I
Yeah.
like the villains? They are my favorite characters. Not at
I
all.
mean, I do too, and I'm so speaking of villains, this is perfect time to mention. I'm so happy that they are making a villains land at Disney finally.
I saw that and I said this to my friend. I'm like, they've been teasing this for years. I'm like, yes, I know they did announce it, but like I will believe it when I go to Magic Kingdom and I see the construction barriers up. That's when I will believe they're actually doing
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And like two, I think like the last D23 it was like a blue sky project. Now that it's not a blue sky project and
Mhm.
it's in production,
Yeah.
you know, now it feels more real. Now it feels a lot more real.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Only thing is how long it's gonna take to fucking build it.
I would imagine a long time because I think they said it's 2 attractions plus shopping and dining. So that's gonna take a while.
Yeah. And as we all know, I think Star Wars Land took about 5 years.
Avatar took Pandora took how I don't even know how long. That one got delayed a couple times.
Yeah. So we might be waiting like 30 years and we'll be like 50 by the time.
I will go whenever it opens. I will go. You can't see because I have it blurred, but I actually have my Lego micro Magic Kingdom castle, Maleficent dragon, and my evil queen heart box behind me.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm glad that we're getting a Villain's Land, but don't fucking take forever to build it, please.
No.
Just get it done as fast as you can, as good as you can.
Yep.
And I don't want to see green walls at Magic Kingdom. We took 500 years for the green walls in like Epcot and everything. Okay, I'm not excited for green walls.
No, nobody is.
They ain't pretty. They're not pretty.
Well, that's why they make them go away green. So in theory, you shouldn't see them if you don't look too closely.
You walk right sometimes.
But if you look at them from very far away.
Stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for Villain's Land. I'm excited for the villains to actually have a home, so we can start meeting them.
Yeah, if Magic Kingdom gets the face characters, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, and I do wonder what villains we will get.
Yeah, because they haven't really announced anything specific. We just kind of get the general vibe of what they want the land to look like, but we don't really have any idea yet.
And then Monsters Inc. land in Hollywood Studios.
Yes, it's exciting, but I am nervous they're going to put that where Muppet Vision is.
That's what people are saying, but I don't believe it.
I don't know, because this thing is like they do need to expand. I think they have space to expand outward, but this was my joke. I was like, if they do put it where Muppet Vision is right now, my joke was, but then where will I take my naps in Hollywood Studios? I love Muppet Vision. I've seen it 500 times. I go there to take a nap.
I do that with Carousel Progress.
Same Carousel. I have basically one in every park. Yeah, now that I realize that, because I Muppet Vision is my Hollywood Studios one. Carousel of Progress is for Magic Kingdom. Living with the land is mine in Epcot. I go on that and I pass out because it's warm in there and it's slow and all that other stuff.
Right.
And then I've been known to fall asleep on the safari in Animal Kingdom. Not on purpose, but it just happens.
I was talking to some of my friends about that, about where Monsters Inc. land was gonna go, and some people were saying like that, like maybe just get rid of Launch Bay, that area, and then just build it around that area.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe like they would possibly demolish the Galactic Star Cruiser since it's closed.
But yeah, don't touch Muppet. Don't touch the Muppets.
I need my nap.
I need my Muppets.
We need the Muppets. It's vital. It's because it's Hollywood Studios. I mean, it's changed so much because when I was going, I used to go back when it was MGM because that's how old I am. Like so much of it has changed since then.
Yeah. Or we can compromise Disney. Disney, hear me out. We can compromise and we can build a Muppets land and then put that there.
You could do that.
Yes.
Seriously, we move the Muppets into the Galactic Star Cruiser and we do the Muppets Take Star Wars.
Or no. What is that Muppet short? Oh, Pigs in Space. We can do Pigs in Space.
There you go. We've solved the issue. Someone from Imagineering, call us.
Just do Pigs in Space where Galactic Star Cruiser is, and then move the Muppets over there. There.
I'm all for that.
Because Pigs in Space doesn't get love, and that's like an amazing short.
Yeah, I think so. There used to be, and by the time I started going back to Disney World kind of regularly, they'd already started construction on Galaxy's Edge, so it was already gone. But at one point, there was a storefront that had a Dark One dagger in the window in Hollywood Studios.
Yep.
But by the time I
It,
started going, it was gone.
yeah, because that was where Osborne Family Lights was.
Yeah.
Yep. And then they got rid of that, and I got really sad because I knew about the book there being there and the dagger being there, and wanted to see it, and it did not go well.
I have my own version of the book as best I can. This is my Kindle case.
Oh.
It's the Once Upon a Time book. This is the best. The case cost more than the Kindle, but it was money worth spent.
I mean, it's Once Upon a Time. Come on,
Exactly.
obviously it's like the best money well spent.
I have spent a lot of money on this show, which is funny because like this is my thing of like a lot of the viewership. It's kind of ever replenishing. Like I see that a lot with my account. A lot of the viewers, the people that come in are the age that I was when I started watching the show back in. I'm not doing that math anymore. Not talking about that. But I get a lot of questions of like because I have almost all of the Funko Pops that came out, almost all of them. There were a couple of
Yep.
con exclusives that I never got, and I never got the Rumpelstiltskin one because he had a mouth and he was creepy. But people will be like, "Oh my God, where did you get those? How do I get those?" And I'm like, "I can't help you. I bought them when they were producing them, and they cost $12 at Hot Topic. I can't help you. I don't know where you get them now. I don't know. I don't know where you get them because like mine are also all out of the box. Like not like I could resell them. I threw out the boxes. I don't have them. So when I move, this is gonna be fun. But like I have all of those. I have a physical copy of one of the novelizations, actually two of them. One of them I bought from thrift books. Uh it's buried in my bookshelf so I can't grab it, but the photographer who did the on-set photography, he put out a book of like all like a lot of the pictures that he took once the show was over. It was like a charity run. So like I have all of these things like when the show was actively airing, and I'm like, I can't help anyone get any of this. I bought it when it was just readily available. My advice is get a time machine. I don't know.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about like their final season.
Sure.
The very sad final season. And I say sad because of the freaking up scene.
That scene was heartbreaking. Like, truthfully. And like the fact they made the music to sound like the Up music too. I'm like, Mark Isham was the composer. He was a fantastic composer. He did a great job with that. But like that was depressing.
And it's like they technically did all the scenes from Up from when they did Married Life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate you people so much.
This is why like the seventh season wasn't like it wasn't necessarily like not sad. It's sad because the show is ending. The show had been important to many of us for a long time and still is for people that are still watching it. And I say as if I'm not still watching it actively. But um like I said, my favorite character was Regina, and she got her happiness by the end of the season. And like there was a lot of stuff going on throughout the season, but also she spent a good chunk of the beginning as Ronnie, who I always say they just took a curse persona so far from Regina, they just circled back around to Lana basically.
Yeah.
Which looked like a lot of fun to play. But like Regina got happiness, Zelina got happiness. We've had an actually good sapphic couple as opposed to Dorothy and Ruby.
Yeah.
Like Ruby Slippers was great in that we're like, thank you for confirming what we all knew, that Ruby was bisexual. We knew that already.
Yeah.
Like it's great to have that confirmed, but if you're gonna do it, maybe give us some more time. But like Alice and Robin might be my favorite part of season 7, just because like they gave them time. Like we got to see them kind of fall in love again in Hyperion Heights. And it was very touching because we didn't get real representation the first time.
Right, exactly. And then I also, just because I'm still obsessed with this and I have been for like a week now, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about the new, I don't know if you watched the Descendants movies or whatever. Descendants movies?
I have seen exactly one Descendants movie. I've only seen the first one.
One.
I've only seen the first one because like it is something that I probably would enjoy if I were to go back and watch them. But there's like a block in my head. I'm like, that's something that I would watch when I was a kid. Why am I watching that now? But like that's never stopped me before. I don't know what it is about those movies specifically that I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep going. Not enough. I mean, people love them. I'm sure people love them. Like they've made 4 of them. And from what I've seen, of the fourth one, I think I would enjoy it, especially because they bring back
The
in Brandy.
The fourth one is a fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing.
So I've been told.
Like
Yeah.
each song is like banger after banger after banger after
Mhm.
banger. I'm like, oh, so it's not like the regular Descendants movies. I don't feel like. I feel like
Mhm.
the fourth one is like more adulty,
Okay.
which is
I mean,
so weird to say for Disney Channel, but
given
still.
that they did bring back they brought Brandy and the actor who played the prince from their version of Cinderella,
Paulo something.
Paolo Montalban, I think is his name.
Yeah. Okay.
That was obviously put in there for the adults because like
Yep.
I feel like because when the first one came out, I want to say I was in college. So like the Brandy Cinderella was my generation. Like
Yeah.
that was a Wonderful World of Disney for like from when I was a kid. So I think that was put in there for like our age group.
Yeah. Like, and I was like, I did to say too, like, I actively choose to watch Brandy's Cinderella more than I do the cartoon.
Oh, same.
Like, I love the cartoon. Like, OG Disney is like my favorite. Like, I grew up on that,
Hmm.
but I actively choose to watch Brandy Cinderella.
I would hesitate. Actually, no, I would not hesitate to say because I'm going to say this now. Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time is better than the original. That is one of the few straight to DVD sequels that I'd be like, I think that's better than the first one.
I mean, the first one's a classic
It
though.
is a classic. Yeah, you
And
can't
it,
it is a creation of its time.
yeah. And like I guess like you can't really have 2 and 3 without the first one.
This
But
is true.
2 shouldn't have existed.
2 was it was in that time period. I almost feel like they were testing to see if they could do a TV series
Yeah.
because they had done that with other ones. They'd done the Little Mermaid series, the Aladdin series, something like this. I almost feel like that movie was testing to see if there was interest in a Cinderella series, and clearly the answer was there is not.
And the internet was like, hell no.
No. How do you feel about the fact that Once Upon a Time did 2 different Cinderellas?
It almost kind of confused me because I was just like, why are we doing two different Cinderellas? Why can't we just stick to the one
Mhm.
and call it good?
Yeah. My thing with that one, because I'm aware that I come at a lot of Once Upon a Time, and this might just be my age or just what I've been doing with the Once Upon a Time account, because this is what I end up having to do. I realize I come at a lot of these things from a very academic like point of view, because I'm like, well, if we go into the literature and the etymology, um, a lot of what's good about a lot of what's good about oral storytelling is that they change, but also that different cultures have different versions of essentially the same story. We see that a lot. I have done a lot of research on the evolution of fairy tales in my academic background. And so the fact that because that Cinderella, I mean, it's also she was played by she was played by a Hispanic actor. So that is almost like, oh, this is just a different version of Cinderella. It's different because I mean that's what it was. It was like we're now seeing a different culture's version of Cinderella. And yes, it was Henry this time, but then they just made it more like that. If we'd stopped there, I would have been like, this is fine. But
Yep.
then it turned into that Enchanted Forest was actually the Wish Realm.
Greetings, boys and girls. My name is Isaiah Vargas. For over 3 decades, R.L. Stein's Goosebumps has reigned as one of the best-selling book series in history, spawning a monster franchise that's lasted since 1992 and spawning a massive fan base. Folks who love to talk about this influential series, and that's where we come in. Join the Goosebumps crew, Nick Shaw, Bjorn Panelik, and myself every week as we dive into the world of Goosebumps and talk about everything from the books, TV shows, movies, video games, merchandise, and so much more. Many like-minded Goosebumps fans and a growing list of special guests join us, so if you want Goosebumps, get with the program. Tune in to the Goosebumps crew every week on YouTube and audio platforms. Become a Goosebumps crew member today. Listen with the lights on.
Also, I wanted to point to ask you about what you thought about Emma being like essentially the Swan Princess,
Mhm.
aka Odette, but yet they don't bring that up at all. I feel like
they brought in elements of the Swan Princess. I do agree with that. I think their intention with Emma was always for her to be a new fairy tale.
Mm.
That's what I get from a lot of the interviews that I've watched for prepping for my podcast, is a lot of Emma. Like they included elements of that. Like Emma's like Swan is a very iconic image in a lot of fairy tales. And they brought in, I think, and it's a flashback in season 5 that that Emma read the Ugly Duckling, and that's why she picked Swan, because that was her hoping that she'll find her Swan family, the family that gave her away or that lost her, and she'll find them again. But they don't bring in too many elements, I think, I would say, of the actual Swan Princess story, because I think they did always intend for Emma and Henry to kind of, well, Henry less so, I would say. Emma is a new fairy tale because she is very much born of that world. Because everything is like, Henry's always the exception. She sometimes is because savior, but not because she's someone of this realm. Henry is more, I would say he's even more of an amalgamation for like the real world in Storybook, because he was born of this realm. Like, yes, he was born of the daughter of Snow White and Prince Charming and the son of Rumpelstiltskin, but he was born in this world. And in so many cases, like with what happens at the end of in the middle of season 3, they have to get him out because he's not from the Enchanted Forest whatsoever. So he is very much, he's the real world in Storybook. Emma is the POV of the viewers in Storybook. That's how I kind of separate those two.
I also, like, throughout the whole entire season, I got really confused on, like, you know, because I don't know why Once Upon a Time likes to do this, like with with Emma dating and marrying Hook, and then with like Henry having Regina and Emma being his mothers. Like, there's a lot of like weird mixtures that I don't really approve of, because I'm like, okay, so why is Snow White Emma's mother? How does that all like go together? I don't.
The family, the joke I make all the time, and I'm pretty sure if it isn't already, it will be a title of an episode of the podcast, because our titles are usually something ridiculous that one of us have said throughout the episode. But is the family, the Once Upon a Time family tree is basically a wreath if you look at it too closely. Because you can just, it's continual. It's a bunch of different overlapping loops is the best way that I can describe it. And it's confusing if you look at it all at once. If you put it together piece by piece as the viewers learn it, kind of like what I'm making Katie do. I'm like, every time like there's new one, I'm like, we're gonna go very, very slowly. We're just gonna don't think too hard. I'm not gonna explain too many things because it's gonna get too confusing. That's why I'm also building out a timeline for her as we go. I'm like, if I gave you everything, it would make no sense. But like, I think why the writers did that, this is just speculation based off of what I know from my writer friends and why we do things, that they chose familial connections because those are the easiest for viewers to relate to. Like, especially when you're using these outlandish characters like Rumpelstiltskin, Captain Hook, Emma Swan, Snow White, the Evil Queen, the Wicked Witch of the West, the Queen of Hearts, all of these characters that are all connected through Henry, basically. Like, they're all so outlandish, but viewers understand a tumultuous sibling relationship. They understand an estranged parent and child relationship. They to an extent understand a strained co-parent relationship, like if you see between Regina and Emma, trying to figure out that kind of situation. So like, I think they landed on these familial connections because they're much more easily relatable, especially when you're in an already outlandish setting.
Like, but like, I'm just trying to figure out, because I'm wondering, how the hell did Snow White have the Swan Princess as a daughter? Like that.
Well, because I mean, like I said, she's kind of she really isn't the Swan Princess if we think about it. Emma Swan, especially, I think it becomes a lot easier once you kind of understand Emma Swan being her own fairy tale.
Yeah.
Her name, like, she's inspired, I would say, by like, as opposed to Snow White, who is Snow White, you know, Ruby, who is Little Red Riding Hood, but also the wolf. That was a good flip. I liked that. That was one that I didn't see coming.
Amazing flip.
When it comes to those, that's one of my favorite ones. When people ask me what was the most shocking, I always say that. But like, Emma Swan is just Emma Swan. I think that makes it a little bit easier to kind of wrap one's head around, is like, she's not a pre-existing fairy tale, because then you'd have to go into the lore of how one fairy tale begets another. And there are cases where like that does happen. This, like, the same fairy tales will kind of like turn into other versions. But Snow White and the Swan Princess are two very different stories.
Right. I guess that makes a little bit more sense
Yeah.
then because like sorry, the sun's like in my eyes.
You're fine.
Like you said, it's like a wreath, so it's like
It is a read. Because like I've done like the videos. It's like, what's something you could talk about for 10 minutes without any prep? I'm like, how much time do you have? Because like you start with Henry, so you got Emma and Neil, those are his parents. We'll start on the father's side. Neil is, I mean, because it's all gonna loop around anyway. Neil is the son of Rumple and Mila. Mila left Rumple for Killian. Killian marries Emma, who is Henry's mother. That's one circle.
Oh, I forgot about I forgot about
Yeah, the ever iconic line of, "So you've been with my former lover and my son." Is that right?
I
Like,
forgot about
to this day, that's one of the best lines in the entire show.
Neil. Why did I forget about Neil?
We forget about Neil a lot. Katie does not like him, which makes Katie and I it's very fortunate. She's been watching the show. She and I dislike the same characters, which has made the podcast so much easier because like if she really like if I haven't made it apparent before, I don't personally care for Neil, Rumple, or Pan. Those are I would say my three least favorite characters.
Right.
And if she liked any of them, I would feel the need to like be a little more reserved in my critique. So like I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Yeah.
She doesn't like them any more than I do. I'm like, great, let's talk about how useless this person is. It works in my favor that she and I are very much of the similar personalities.
Don't put Mike over. Just to see, let's just figure out how useless this bitch is, because like this bitch is like really useless.
Like, well, Neil will. I mean, when she'll get to it soon, where Neil just starts being very useless because he'll be combined with Rumple and then dies.
Wasn't there like a scene like of like him in a cage in Emma or something like that?
Yeah, because after they get captured, after he gets recaptured, because yeah, the uselessness of him. Let me go on my tangent very quickly. The uselessness of Neil in 304 in that him and Rumple work together to get Henry back. They get Henry back, but then Pan is like, but actually your father might try and kill him, so be wary. Neil's not wrong in distrusting his father. However, paralyzing Rumple and then walking away only ensures that they get recaptured.
Right.
And then Neil ends up in the Echo Caves, and that I loved this. This was very perfect because I'm watching the episodes that have audio commentary. That if they do, I watch them with the commentary as well. It gets me some extra info for the episodes. And in the commentary for Lost Girl 302, it was two of the writers, and they called Neverland Therapy Island.
Yep.
And it's like in the Echo Caves are like the therapy caves. Like that's what it is. You have to like reveal like your innermost secrets and confront your emotions. It's the therapy caves.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that being like that. Oh my god, that's
It's the therapy
genius.
caves.
That's genius.
And like Katie had been saying all the time, it's like everyone just needs to talk. Everyone just needs therapy. I'm like, well, they got therapy. She's like, yeah, not like this.
Like this.
I was like, I don't know what
Like
to tell
my
you.
friend
Dr. Hopper wasn't enough for you. They have a whole island now.
Dr. Hopper.
He tried. Archie tried. He wasn't very good, but he tried.
I heard Dr. Hopper when he first got introduced, and I'm like, who's Dr. Hopper? And then as it went on, I'm like, oh my fucking god, he's the he's Jiminy Cricket.
He's Jiminy Cricket.
He's Jiminy fucking Cricket.
Yep. Apparently, the scene. This is what happens on my podcast is something will happen and I'm like, oh, I have a fun fact. Let's talk about this. In the pilot, the scenes where Emma meets Archie for the first time in Storybook at night, and the scene of the battle group, where Jiminy says like, giving into one dark side never accomplishes anything, which he also says in the Storybook one. Those scenes were originally flipped. I don't remember why, but I think it works better the way they had it. Right. Like, because I feel like if they put because I think that was what they were trying to. I think they flipped them so you couldn't entirely tell Jiminy Cricket was voiced by Raphael Sbarge. Because I think if they'd done it the other way around, it would have been very clear.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they're trying to like not hide it, but like not make it super
obvious. Not make it super obvious.
Unless you're me, that I just pick up on voices really well.
I mean.
Again, I was also 16, so I don't even know if I picked up on it back then.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things I didn't pick up uh on the show that I'm now at 25 being like, what the fuck? I that went over my head.
Yeah, there was something. I don't remember what reveal it was. It was something from season 2 that I said I didn't pick up on as quickly. And Katie was like, but it's obvious. And I'm like, at my age now, yes, I would say it was obvious. I can't remember exactly which one, like what reveal in season 2 it was. But I was like there's some things where I'm like, I saw that coming. But like the two that I can say I didn't see coming were Ruby Red being the wolf. And I didn't really see Pan being Rumple's father coming either. Like that was one that but that one is almost more like, where did that come from? That one wasn't that's my thing with Pan. Like that I never found that reveal to be particularly compelling and adding a
Right,
lot to his story. It just kind of made him
right,
more of an asshole.
right. Which, is apparent because like he is an asshole. So
He is. Pan is an asshole.
and
Very much.
and it's so weird because like I thought, with Pan, we're gonna get the Pan from the actual Disney, like, oh no, that is far
No.
from Disney character Pan.
No, we get the version that's more from the book that like lures boys to their death, basically.
Okay.
I read the original book. I took a classic children's literature class in college. So I read for that one. I read The Wizard of Oz. I read Peter Pan. I read a bunch of different fairy tales just for a different project.
Right.
What else? I don't know. I've read a lot of I read Alice in Wonderland. I've read a lot of classic children's literature for my time in academia. So I know a lot of what they pulled from those for Once Upon a Time.
And I didn't know that there was a book. So I've only seen the Disney version, and I preferred the Disney version because
A
it's
lot of
less
people, I mean,
terrifying.
I would say I still prefer that. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the animated Peter Pan, just in the general pantheon. It's not my favorite Disney movie, but
Yeah,
I would watch that over reading the book again.
yeah. he was, he was a trip. He.
He was something. I can say that. Like at this point in the season where like I said, we just recorded the episode for Nasty Habits. She's like, but why is he evil? I'm like, you honestly don't get an answer to that until the 8th episode of the season, which by then the arc is almost over, which is why she's like, but it's moving so slowly. I'm like,
Welcome
yes.
to television.
Well, these things like it's not even like because we want space. We're both in the camp of like we want 22 episode seasons to come back
Yeah.
because filler episodes are great in those times because that's what gets you to care about the characters. And like, I mean, the last episode gave us time to care about characters. It just wasn't
Mm.
characters that we gave a shit about.
Right.
It gave us time to care about Neil and Rumple, and we're like, eh. But
But why do
like,
we have to care about Neil? Neil's Neil.
he was main cast. That's why we were supposed to care about him. They gave him extra money, I guess.
Neil's an idiot.
Neil is basically useless. The episodes that I feel like I can skip are usually the ones that are focused on him.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we talked about earlier. He's useless and he's an idiot.
He's useless. But he's not as much of an idiot as Snow and Charming. They continue to be Idiot 1 and Idiot 2.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
They will forever be the two idiots,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
coined by Regina.
Can I tell you my least favorite episode of Once Upon a Time?
Go right ahead.
And that's like shocking from a musical theater standpoint of I
Mhm.
love musicals.
It's the musical episode, isn't it?
It's the musical episode. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, can I ask why?
Oh my god, it's just stupid.
Okay.
The singing is stupid. I love
That's fair.
Hook's song, but like
Yeah,
the rest of
Revenge
the
is a good one.
songs, yeah, the rest of it is just like Snow White song. Oh my god, Snow White song. Ew.
Can I
Ew.
go a little academic into it, like to talk about this? Because I mean, I personally like the musical episode, but I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just trying
Okay.
to talk about
Okay.
where I come from with this.
Yeah.
So much of the music, and this is my thing of like what I see a lot of people do is they say, but it's not a musical. All the music kind of feels the same. I'm like, yeah, it does. Because especially Powerful Magic, Love Doesn't Stand a Chance, Wicked Always Wins, and Revenge Can Be Mine. Those are all I want songs. They all function the same way in the stories. They don't move it. I mean, also nothing moves forward because at the end of the musical aspect, their memories get reset. Because it's also like set within months of the curse being cast. There's no time for anyone to move forward anyway. But those are all functionally the same song because Snow and Charming, Regina, Killian, and Zelina are all the main characters in their own story. Therefore, they're
Right.
all entitled to their own I Want songs. I feel like that's something I'm like, if you try and treat it like a full musical, that's when it's gonna be like nothing happens. I'm like, but it's an episode with music. That's how I always play it. And like I love campy stuff. Like this is like my brand of campy. Like it's because it's all
No.
themed specific to the characters. Like Snow and Charming's
Right.
is very classic Disney into a little bit of like modern kind of musical towards the end of it.
Mhm.
Regina's is like that rock music that I think could have been up a step, maybe to fit better for Lana's voice. Just that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
Killian's is the rock music. Selena is like total eclipse of the heart power ballad, and the plan makes no sense, but it's also perfect for the character. And then I really like what they do with Emma's theme because that's the music that Mark Isham has put in the show. That's like they rearranged his score for that
Right.
song. And
Mhm.
that's one thing is, and I admit this is the very academic way of looking at this show and looking at these songs. I think it's a very powerful piece of storytelling to take music that up until now had only been on the viewer side of things. At least that's how we assumed it
Right.
to be. It's something the
Mhm.
viewers are experiencing. You hear that
Right.
do 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 do, like you hear that behind Emma's actions, and we assume it's just us. But making that a tangible thing of the world that Emma has been experiencing the entire time, I
Right.
think that's a really powerful way of kind of bridging the like kind of making the fourth wall even smaller between the viewers and the characters. But that's my thing. It's not me trying to change your mind because if you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm never going to try and change someone's mind if they don't want to. But that's my very academic way of looking at the musical episode.
It was just a little too pitch perfect for me.
And that's okay. That's your opinion. That's okay.
And pitch perfect sucks.
The first one I liked. I was the rest of them not so much.
First one I loved. Second, third, and fourth, and now probably fifth are gonna all suck.
There's just too many of them.
Did you see that fifth one is gonna be in development?
I don't even think I saw the fourth one.
Rebel Wilson is
Oh,
getting it in development, and I'm like, Rebel honey, just sit down.
yeah, right.
Just sit the fuck down.
Like this is what I say with anything is in order for it to feel special, it has to end eventually. It has to have ended in a spot. And if you're gonna go back into the world, you need to have a reason to. And this I mean just brings back to Once Upon a Time because I get asked all the time if they did season 8, what would I want them to do? And my answer is not an answer anyone likes. Because and this is also, like I said before, is very selfish because season 7 ended with my favorite character getting her happy ending. And I think Regina being not the evil queen, Regina being the good queen is a solid and satisfying happy ending for her. If there's another season, selfishly, her life's going to go to hell. That's how the writers, they treat her like a punching bag. I don't want to see that happen. But I say this a lot about any reboot, anything that's like going back into production. You need a reason to re-enter the world. And I don't see them coming up with a compelling one other than things are repeating themselves.
Yep.
And now Lucy and Hope need to go on adventures. That's basically what I would see them doing. And I'm not the biggest fan of like next generation retellings. That's a personal thing. So that's why I'm like, as I always warn people, my answer is probably not one you want to hear because I'm like, I want the show to be, I think it's okay if the show is done. I think it's okay.
Well, and it not only that, but like it ended in a good way. And then sometimes when shows come back with like a reboot, like they're terrible reboots. They're terrible.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I feel like with a lot of shows, they feel unsatisfying if you don't get specific actors back. Like, I would say with Fuller House, like, they spent so much of that first season making jokes about why Michelle wasn't back because Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen had no desire, which is, that's their prerogative. They're allowed to. Don't keep making jokes about it throughout your entire season. I think Once Upon a Time would have a hard time getting back Jennifer Morrison just because she's truthfully thriving with everything that she's doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, she was in a couple like the last season of This Is Us. Okay, she rocked that.
She acts when she wants to. She predominantly does directing and producing. She's got her podcast, her production company.
Yep.
Like she's thriving with what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I got asked a slew of questions. Like, do I think season 7 would have been better received if this changed or that changed?
Mhm.
And all of my answers after a while, I'm like, I have to stop doing this because the answer is just always no.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there is no season 7 change that could be just as satisfying to viewers if Emma
Mhm.
didn't come back. And Jennifer Morrison left for her own personal reasons, and it was
Mhm.
for the better for her. But one person did ask me that was like, do I think it would have worked if they'd just recast Emma? And I
Right.
was like, I mean this in the nicest possible way. Have you met the fans of Once Upon a Time? No, I don't think it would have been received any better. I think like any season without Jennifer Morrison, Jennifer Goodwin, Josh Dallas, everyone that they wrote off the show, any season without them wouldn't have been better received than what we had.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
that's just how viewers are. A lot of viewers
Mhm.
they don't like change, which is okay. But I always say, I'm like, if you watched it live and you're annoyed that it was different, even though all of the marketing said this is a reboot, sequel, new characters, new stories, familiar settings, if you're still surprised that it's different, that's your own dang fault.
Because literally when they rebooted the TV show Roseanne, that's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, dude, it's not gonna be the same. Sorry to tell you, it's not gonna be the same.
Honestly, I feel like when they got rid of her, it got better.
Yeah.
When it became the Connors, I think it got better.
Yeah. But now the Connors are ending, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
I only watched a little bit of it. I think I watched maybe the first 2 seasons of the reboot.
Oh, I watched every single season.
Mm. I would say I don't have time to watch TV, but I honestly don't between everything else that I'm doing. I watch TV for my podcast. Because with that, I'm watching Once Upon a Time and Bob's Burgers. Uh, do you want me to explain the concept of the podcast? Because it's weird.
Yes, please. I was about to ask you.
Yes.
Why don't you talk about your podcast for a little bit?
I shall. So my podcast is called Okay, But Did You Know, which is a TV and media podcast where we share our love of our favorite TV and media that the other co-host has never seen before. That's the main concept. Because like it came about, it really was a joke. I bought my microphone mostly because I'm looking into starting some audiobook narration in the very near future. And my friend Katie was like, hey, so when are we doing that podcast? Because we just kind of we joked for months that when I got a microphone, we do a podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, what podcast are we doing? And like, I had been trying to get her to watch Once Upon a Time. She'd been trying to get me to watch Bob's Burgers. So we're like, can we do 2 podcasts? Would that work? And I'm like, actually, can we just make it 1 podcast? We were like, it took like a good day of logistics.
Just
but
make it one.
we made 1 podcast. So
Yeah.
basically the idea is, so every week we are recapping episode by episode Once Upon a Time and Bob's Burgers, which are 2 very different shows. The Once episodes go out every Monday and the Bob's ones go out every Wednesday. And the Bob's ones cover 2 episodes of Bob's Burgers per podcast because they're short.
Yeah.
So that way the episodes can kind of be about the same length. So the idea is you're listening to the 2 of us recap and chat about these shows, both from the perspective of a seasoned viewer and a new viewer. So like you have Katie asking me a lot of questions and me teasing her about what's yet to come, and it's a lot of fun with that. With Bob's, it's a lot of like, what the hell am I watching? I'm now obsessed with these burger buns. What have you done to me? So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of chaos. Because you've got the vibes of 2 very different shows. Like they're very like they're, but I think the concept is sharing media that with your friend that's never seen it before, and that way we get to info dump at each other, which is always a lot of fun. And because that way I have a lot of fun facts that I happen to just know. I pull stuff from like the wikis. I pull stuff from the interviews that I've seen throughout the years, all that other, I pull in fandom stuff like the Lana doing the Disney World commercials and stuff like that. And we have a lot of fun with it. And we've been doing it for a little over a year at this point. In November, it will have been out for a year because we're the geniuses that came up with a TV podcast the day before SAG-AFTRA went on strike. It was great timing. It was fantastic timing.
Fantastic.
It was amazing. But honestly, it worked in our favor because we'd always planned on like the best advice we got was like, you have a bank of episodes before you go. That way you just that way you can just post and never worry. You'll just know that you've got stuff. If you need to take a week off, you're not missing any content. So we planned on recording for like a month at first. And then once we kind of decided, let's just wait until the strike is over because it's just, our shows aren't technically under the thing that's under contract because they're not being struck because animation, like short animation was different. And it would have been considered struck work at the time if it had been made. We're like, this is too gray of an area, so let's just wait. So we ended up with like a 3.5 month bank because we recorded from like July to November without ever posting. So that works in our favor. Like we're doing this a year later, we still have a 2.5 month bank. We can still take weeks off if we need to. We do supplement, because we do specials also. So every once in a while we'll throw in like an episode that's just about, like we did one about Hasbin Hotel, or we threw in one that was just about fandom culture topics because I have a lot of thoughts. And then we also have our book club. So we started doing that as well, which is we read books that have either been adapted into TV and film, or that are retelling. So it's like adaptations in itself. So we do that once a quarter, and soon we're going to start to do movies. We have yet to figure out how that's going to work, but we do know what our first movie is. So we're going to figure that'll be like around November, I think, is when we're going to figure that one out. But at its core, it's a friend of ours called it like a Socratic seminar. Like we do have a core topic. We're talking about an episode, we're talking about a topic, but it will go off the rails. But it'll come back to the point. It's all on topic, even if it goes off the rails.
Right. Like
it's been a lot of fun. It's been one of my favorite things that I've ever done.
That sounds a lot like me too. Like when I was gonna, because I watched Grease Rise of the Pink Ladies, which it was my favorite sapphic show.
It's a great show
that came out. It was a great show. I'm really upset that it only got one season.
It's done. It's sad.
Done. It's sad. But then so I was going to interview probably like I was gonna try to get an interview with some of the cast to interview about the show, because I thought that'd be cool. I could talk about Grease, which is the musical and everything, and keep it in that realm. And then the strike happened. And I was like, shit.
Whoops. I saw an interview that Ari did, the actor who played Cynthia, about episode 5, which is the episode that Jennifer Morrison directed. And it was weird. Not weird, it was funny that they said that it was such a pivotal moment for the character and like kind of coming out a little bit, figuring out, because that's the episode with Merely Players is the song. I don't remember much about the episode. It was a Halloween episode. And they said in the interview that it was like kind of a full circle moment for them, because watching Jennifer Morrison as Emma Swan was so pivotal to them coming out as a person. I'm like, that is very funny.
Yes. But then a couple of weeks later, I had interviewed someone that was covering and interviewing the people that were the picket lines in New York City. And so I had them on, and then the next day that I posted it, or like the day, I'm not even kidding you, the day after I interviewed them, the strike stopped. And I'm like, I post this, like tomorrow, and it's gonna make no fucking sense now because the strike's over.
Oops. No, I remember, but it's funny. It's funny because I had a lot of people that were like very excited for our podcast, because we've been kind of like talking about it in like our circles for a while. I was out to dinner with a friend of mine, and I got a bunch of Instagram notifications, but I didn't look at them. I'm like, I'm with my friend. I'm gonna be present. I'm not gonna look at anything on Instagram. And then 5 minutes later, my co-host calls me. I was like, okay, I think I need to take this. I think something has happened. So I answer the phone while I'm at dinner. I'm like, hi, is everything okay? She's like, the strike is over. I was like, what? Because like neither of us are part of the union, but like we were doing our best to be in solidarity, because it cost us nothing. It cost us nothing to keep the podcast off the air. It was but it was like, but then it was excitement of like, that's great for the actors. It's great for everybody in the industry. Like now we actually have to figure out how to market this. We've been building this podcast for 3 months. How do we post? How do we do this?
Right, exactly.
Like it felt we were aware that we're not part of the union, but it felt like we were kind of a part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I felt like I did feel like it. I felt like, oh, I'm covering this. I'm part of the union. Yay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I'm not part of the union anymore because the strike's over now. So damn it.
No, I will likely never be part of SAG-AFTRA. Most likely.
No.
I have like for someone that does a lot of stuff with my voice and stuff with it, like I have not that I have no desire to be a voice actor. If it were to happen, I'd be very happy. But like when it comes to like being like a SAG-AFTRA member, like working on like in union projects, I don't see myself doing that. It's like it's that thing of like I mean, this is me. The thing is, I need job security and health insurance from a pragmatic standpoint. But like, I always like letting my creative stuff be a supplement to my life, not my entire life.
Right. Right.
And like, in order to get to the point where you can qualify for the SAG-AFTRA union, it has to be your life, and for people that can do that and make that work, that's phenomenal. And I have nothing but admiration for them. But it's not me.
Mhm. Ugh. One final thought is go. Okay, so one final thought about Once Upon a Time.
Mhm.
Literally, okay, so we talked about how like sometimes the storyline doesn't really make any damn sense.
Yeah.
like the Bo Peep. And I mentioned Bo Peep again because Bo Peep, why are you here? Why are you here?
Yeah.
You're Pixar. Why are you here?
She's a nursery rhyme.
And she's a nursery rhyme. You're right. She's a nursery rhyme too. Why
Mm-hmm.
are you here? You're not Disney.
No. Well, was okay, you might know this better than I do. Was Toy Story ever under Disney Pixar or was it just Pixar?
Just Pixar,
Okay.
I believe. No, I don't know.
I always get those mixed up.
Yeah, I believe it was just Pixar.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was just Pixar. But yeah, and then like I said, why are you here? Just why are you here?
Yeah, sometimes sometimes they just wove in too many stories. And this was like going back to what we said at the very beginning, where like I feel like after a while some Disney movies just shouldn't some Disney things don't necessarily need to be once upon a time things.
Mhm.
Because I feel like at a certain point the stories are already so overly saturated. They really did focus a lot on quantity over quality while simultaneously being really good at getting people to care about characters really quickly,
Yeah,
which is both a good thing and a bad thing because it means that viewers care a lot about characters that they never had any intention to do anything with. They're like, this person was only supposed to be here for like an episode and give someone a prophecy and walk away. What do you mean they have like 100,000 followers on TikTok? Like, if TikTok wasn't on back then, that's just what came out of my mouth. But like,
right,
it worked to their. It was it's very it's good that they can do that, but also works
right,
to their. It made a lot of angry fans when
right.
like Mulan got shoved to the wayside really quickly, or the characters only stuck around for 11 episodes because that's how the arcs worked. Like people were like not happy, which I will find endlessly hilarious at one time at a convention that was Kristen Bauer, Marin Dungy, and Victoria Smurfit, so our Queens of Darkness. Someone asked them, "Do we have any hope to see any of your characters in the future?" Sorry, Victoria, because Cruella was dead. But of those three women, the only one we ever saw again was Cruella. Because they went to the underworld and then she came back in the season 7 finale. Because they had a wish Cruella, which I forget about constantly.
Sorry, can I just say this? That whole part of that season made no damn sense.
The Wish Realm
Yeah,
will never make any sense, especially because they turned the season 7 Enchanted Forest into the Wish Realm, which makes it make even less sense. Like if they'd left it alone as just that pocket realm of season 6, and when Emma leaves, the realm is gone,
yep.
that would have been fine. But they needed a reason for Hook to be there without Emma, and the best way to do that is with Wish Hook, unfortunately.
Well, and then even in like the last season with like Rona Penry and then like Tiana, and I'm like, make it make sense here. What
I
is
trust me, I've
Tiana doing
tried.
here? What is Tiana doing here?
I've tried so hard. I've tried to make sense of that season 7, and truthfully, the thing that makes it nearly impossible to make sense, A, because they decided it was the Wish Realm, which is just that just throws it off. But Robin actively makes everything make no sense.
Yeah.
I've tried to do the math on it to figure out like how far back they could have gone, how far apart things need to happen. But given the fact that there's about 4 years between the end of season 6 and the beginning of season 7, and then there is apparently a time jump at some point when they go back, there's not enough. This is one line. If they'd left this one line out, it wouldn't be as difficult. Robin specifically states in the mid-season finale of season 7 that she's 25. If they hadn't given us her age, I could have just assumed she was like in her early 20s and it probably would have been fine. But because she said that, it makes no sense. Sometimes all it takes is one line to throw everything off.
It doesn't make sense still to this day, and I've been watching it for like over and over. Like I go back to those couple of those scenes from season 7 for a while, and I'm like, nope. I tried to rewatch them to try to make sense of them. This still didn't make sense.
No.
No.
You can't make sense of it. And I look forward to Katie yelling at me when we get there in I don't know, 1.5 2 years, whenever we get to season 7, based off of our schedule. It'll be a little while because in a year we got through 2 seasons, so it'll probably take us another 2 years to get to season 7.
Wasn't there like a scene too where like Cinderella was like on a motorcycle?
Yeah, that's in the opening. I think
it's in the opening.
It's not. I can't remember if that was the cold open because I can't remember the exact order of the scenes, but it's in the first scene. It's in the first scene with her and Henry.
Okay.
So this actually that can't be the cold open. The cold open is Jared going through the portal.
Yeah. And so it's just like, why are you on a motorcycle? That makes no sense.
Because that was them modernizing it. That's, Henry having a motorcycle is his version of having a horse to ride off on. So it's a lot of it's like these little things that like sometimes land and sometimes don't.
Oh God.
Like I said, I come at so much of this from like the literary analysis, the academic analysis, because that's what I've kind of turned my account into is people ask me these questions and like, you want a really thoughtful analysis that no one ever asked for before? Here you go. That's just how my brain works. Which can be it's a good thing in that it gives me I have a platform for it and I have a podcast for it, so it's all good.
Also, like I just thought of this too, like seasons back where we saw like the sorcerer's hat, we didn't see Mickey anywhere.
No, but I think at one point you can see on a cork board there's like they circle the apprentice and they have an arrow next to Yensid. That's what they decided his name was. Well, because here's the thing. Yes, ABC is Disney, but Mickey Mouse was still heavily under copyright back then.
True.
Okay. And to be fair, he still is. The only version of him that has technically outlived its copyright is Steamboat Willie.
Yeah. And I feel like if they remade Once Upon a Time and used Steamboat Willie, oh my God, that would not.
I could see them having it like on a TV in the background. Like for some random scene. That I could see them doing.
I don't know why, but why could I just picture them? I can see that, but I can also see them doing like a CGI sort of thing where like it's Steamboat Willie.
After the CGI trolls from season 4, I would hope they didn't. Their CGI budget they did the best they could, knowing that like now I know this, that like basically all of their CGI, they had the company that did it basically had anywhere from 8 to 16 days to get it done. So when you have not a lot of time and you have only so much money, they had to save their CGI where they could. Yeah. So like that meant sometimes the CGI didn't look so great. Like I just watched the episode with the giant squid. Like maybe not the best. And I know they're saving that because they need better CGI as the season goes on. But they almost had to like conserve it. Like it will look okay. It'll look better later because when we need something really, really cool, that's when it's gonna look cool.
Right. Right, exactly.
You gotta conserve.
Just if you're gonna redo Once Upon a Time, please don't do a CGI with Steamboat Willie.
No, please do practical effects. Like honestly, there's practical special effects. There's something really special about them because I feel like the last show that I watched that did a lot of its own practical effects was True Blood, and I only know that now because Kristen Bauer has her podcast and she's talked about those stuff. And like a lot of it is practical of like the fangs. Like they're just like, okay, pause for fangs. Someone comes in, put the fangs in. Okay, unpause and then go back about the scene, stuff like that. Like once we do that with the poofs, it would be like pause for poof. Someone runs in, like Lana did explain one time how like the heart ripping works. So it's like, okay, so basically it's just me, like she just like puts her hand against the guy's chest. It's like, okay, pause, and then my hand kind of comes out from their armpit and someone hands me the heart and I go back and then unpause and then we do it again. Like there's some magic. Those times that it's practical are kind of the times where it looks the best. It's a little, it kind of, I guess maybe knowing that maybe might ruin the magic a little bit, but I'm like, so many of these scenes, I'm like, all I can imagine is just like the one from the end of Welcome to Storybook. I'm like, knowing how they filmed this, I'm like, all I can imagine now is just Ginny groaning while Lana essentially just like grabs her boob. That's basically what it had to be. I have such a way with words, don't I?
Yes, you do. But I enjoy it so much. Oh,
This is why I'm a writer. Not a TV writer, but I am a writer.
It paints a picture.
It shows you what to expect in my books.
It paints a pretty picture.
It does. It's very visual.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's it, folks. Thank you for tuning in and being very vigilant with me holding my hand up because of the freaking sun.
Hopefully the chaos was enjoyable.
Yeah, hopefully it was enjoyable. But nonetheless, we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.